Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the webinar for Introduction to Online Drama Therapy. Hopefully you've already watched part 1, which was all about sort of ethics and confidentiality and sort of the really logistic stuff about how to get yourself online. So if you haven't watched that and you don't have experience working with online therapy, I really recommend giving it a watch, just because, yeah, drama therapy online is not just as easy as doing drama therapy online. There's a lot of stuff that you need to think about first. But today we are looking at tips and techniques specific to drama therapy. So this is the really fun part. And I know you're not with me live, but if you have any questions, please email me. You'll see my email address at the end, and get in touch, because I really enjoy helping people solve their tech problems. And it's interesting for me, and it helps me to develop new techniques in the field. So without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty, so if you have watched part 1, you will recognize this screen. And last time we spoke about Zoom and Google Meet, so I don't have to speak too much about that. You already know it. But what I did bring us to the screen because I want to reiterate that the two programs I'm going to be talking a little bit about are Zoom and Google Meets, which is part of the G Suite suite of Google products. Okay, the fancy term for all the Google products. So the Zoom features that I'm dealing with today are mostly available on the free version. If anything, you'll have to just get one step up. Remember, that's the membership that is $15 US a month, so not too bad. Everything Google Meets, remember the G Suite, the cheapest option that is HIPAA compliant is $6 US a month. But the programs there are actually, other than Meets, are free. So here we go. Zoom is great for drama therapy, okay? So it has all of these extra features that are built in. And why Zoom has got so popular so quickly is it's easy. It is easy for people to join a Zoom call. Anybody and their gran can join Zoom as long as they've got the meeting ID and the password, or just the URL, that you can just share one URL with your clients and they can very easily, in a few clicks, join the Zoom meeting. So we spoke a little bit in part 1 about how that affects the security, but it also affects therapy, right? So extras that are in Zoom are really easy to access for your client. They don't need any extra accounts, and they need very few extra clicks to access these extras. So that's why I personally like Zoom. A lot of my clients aren't super techie clients. They're not, geeks like me. So it's really nice to just be able to make things easy for them and to make things flow. Okay, so yeah, Zoom is pretty cool. We're gonna look at some of the fun things you can do, and let's have a closer look. All right, the first thing in Zoom that you want to play with that's super easy is the whiteboard option. So what you're going to do is you're going to look down at the share screen button and you're going to click through to whiteboard, and you're going to click share. 3 clicks and you're done. This is the Zoom whiteboard. Now, if you want to tell people how to draw with you, because the lovely thing about whiteboard is that anybody on your call can play and draw and be creative on this whiteboard. So you're going to want to tell them to look up at the top of their screen, and it will have a green bar saying you are now viewing, in this case, Monique's screen, and then there'll be a little drop-down menu, and they're going to have to click annotate. Once they've clicked that, that's it. Then they are in, they get a little toolbar and they can draw. It's quite fun. There is, you can make blocks, which is pretty cool. You can do some stamping, little hearts all over. You can erase nicely, undo, redo, and you can do text blocks, which is also pretty cool. So I can write whatever I want, and it is there. The nice thing about whiteboard is that it saves. You can click in your settings in Zoom, so under your profile before the call, you can set it to automatically save your whiteboard. So once the call is over, you will get a little block coming up telling you exactly where they've saved your whiteboards. You can also manually save if you want to, and I think your client can also save. So that's lovely. And it's lovely that you can be super spontaneous with the Zoom whiteboard because there's very little that you need to explain in between. So if I find myself in the middle of a process and like, oh, this would be a great time for an art idea or a reflective process, or I'd like us to be able to type together or draw together, it's just a few clicks and the person can get onto their whiteboard and you can be doing it together. So you can't do a few things in the whiteboard, so you can't sort of copy and paste images or upload images. And also, quite importantly, once it's saved, Zoom saves it as a JPEG, as a picture. So you couldn't open it up again and come back to it and carry on editing, especially if you want to do it in separate sessions. You could share your screen and show the picture again, but you can't edit it and re-edit it and keep working. Okay, so those are two important things to note. Some of the cool things I've done with Whiteboard is I've had a client, I was doing sort of relationships in their life, and what I did was I invited her to draw herself, represent herself somehow on the whiteboard, and then around we were dealing with certain relationships and she could represent all the other people in her life. And it's things we would look at normally, like how close or how far has she represented them, what are the images she's chosen, and I can actually see as she's drawing, but we're both looking at the whiteboard, so it doesn't feel so confronting. It doesn't feel like I'm staring at her going, oh, what are you drawing? It's really like low pressure. And obviously the drawing isn't going to be great. I mean, if people are on an iPad or a phone or a touchscreen device, it might be much easier for them to draw, right? But if not, if you're drawing with a good old mouse, then you can have a laugh about it. You could even draw something first just to let your client know, look, nobody can draw like this on a computer. We're not professional artists. It's fine. We can talk through it together. So this is Zoom Whiteboard, super cool. As many people as you want that are on the call can annotate at the same time. Okay. So another cool thing about Zoom is that if you're working with groups, Zoom makes it really easy. So if you look at the bottom of your screen when you're the host, not if you won't have this option if you're just joining a call. So if you're wondering why you haven't seen it before, at the bottom to the right, there'll be a thing called breakout rooms. And breakout rooms are really cool. I can click a button and I can assign participants into rooms. Okay, so I could say, I've got 20 people, I want 5 rooms. Yeah, and then I can either click automatic, in which case Zoom will just send the people into their breakout room, or I can click manually, and that lets me choose who goes into what room. Now, if you can schedule meetings in Zoom, you can actually assign people to their breakout rooms when you're scheduling, which is pretty cool. But you can absolutely do it in the call, okay? So you don't have to stress. You could also assign people individually. So if you had 5 people, you can put them in 5 rooms so that people can have their own space. And the nice thing about breakout rooms is that you as the host can jump in and out of those rooms, which is really cool. It's exactly what we would do in-person therapy. Jump in, say hey, see how things are going, and then jump out and keep going, just circulating and being present. Also, one great thing about using breakout rooms is I know when I have people in a small space, a lot of people, and I've got groups, they're always too loud. And I really don't like telling people to keep quiet, because if they're into the exercise and they're really going for it and having a lively discussion or a play session, it doesn't feel right to always be telling them to keep quiet, even though we have to. Breakout rooms, they can be as loud as they want, because literally they're in their own private room. They can be doing their own thing. No one can listen to them except you when you jump in and out. Also, you set a time limit, and then Zoom will bring everybody else back together at the end of that time period. So you might want to jump in and out and say, hey, you've only got this amount of time, just to give people a warning, because otherwise it can be quite sudden. But there you go, it's done for you. Breakout rooms are super awesome. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is just some more about sharing your screen. Okay, so we're going to talk about the share screen function in Zoom. So during this webinar, you would have seen me share my screen for the whiteboard, and you also would have seen me share my screen with PowerPoints. But the other cool thing is that Zoom allows you to share things from your Google Drive or anything really that's on your computer. Okay, so if we look now, I'm going to share with you some of my cards that I like to use, because I know a lot of us enjoy using cards in therapy. So here you can see I've got my Google Drive open. You might want to be aware of the types of things, the tabs you have open, because people can see the top of your screen, but just to be aware of. And here you can see I've got some Dixit cards. Now, I really want to challenge you to try and get electronic copies of cards, because, and I mean, I know I'm small on your screen right now, but there's a heck of a difference between having a card like this and going, can you see? What is this? No, look, it's a granny here. You tempted to start describing what sometimes we use really complex cards. And if you're already interpreting them, what is the point of your exercise? Okay, and it's just awkward to be holding it and you're like, how many can I show at once? What's going on? So really, I want to challenge you to try and find electronic copies, and that's easy. You can go in somewhere like Etsy or Amazon or to independent sellers, and you can look for people who are selling cards as digital downloads. So what this means normally is that you would download the PDF and then you would take it to be printed yourself so that you don't have to wait for a delivery or pay for postage. But what we're going to do is you just take that PDF and there you go. It's your electronic copy of your cards. And you can see on the screen now, they're so much clearer. We could even zoom in and out as we wanted so that people can really get a sense of the cards. And what is really great about sharing your screen in Zoom is that annotate still works. Okay, so exactly the same way up to the top, look for the drop-down menu, click annotate, and then anybody can draw on your cards whatever they want to do. So this is when it's really cool to have drawn a square, because you can go, okay, so you don't want to choose this card, you don't want to choose that one, okay, we're dealing with these 4 cards. Yeah, very cool. You could write over that, you could then say like, no, we're not using it, no, or whatever you wanted to do. Whatever, it's up to you. You can be as creative as you want. It is worth noting though that if you're annotating and you want to move your screen, that stays put. Yeah, you're not actually drawing on the file that's being shared, you're drawing on the screen itself, kind of like having a clear sheet of plastic that you're drawing on. Okay, so anything that you move behind is just going to move independently. So what I would recommend is edit out what you want and make sure, like, this is quite a bad example and I'm using it specifically because you can see there's 3 little cards at the bottom there that are poking their heads out. So I don't want to have to be moving it around for the client. They can take control in Zoom of my screen, but I don't know if I'd be super comfortable with that just because it's another thing to try and do. So I would rather edit out these bottom cards and have just 6 cards at a time up, and then we don't have to worry about scrolling. But very cool feature, very easy. Again, mostly it's therapist run. So as long as I know what I'm doing and I know which button to press relatively easily and fluidly, then it's super easy for my client, because really the only thing they have to worry about is remembering how to annotate, and that's 2 clicks and you're done. Okay, so that's Zoom. Really cool, lovely features. Okay, now I want to talk to you about a really cool Google product, and this is a free program. Okay, you can use this with Zoom, but I mention it as part of G Suite because Google Meets doesn't have a whiteboard. Yeah, you can share your screen and that's about it, right? It's really standard video conferencing software. So what you're going to want to do if you're using Google Meets is have access to other programs that can create the same things for you that you can get in Zoom. So let me share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you Jamboard. Alrighty, so now you can get a nice view of my cat. This is Google Jamboard. So if you already have a Gmail account, you can find this already. You just click the few dots that take you to Google Drive and Google Maps and all of that. You're going to scroll down until you find the logo that looks a little bit like a musical note, I think it's meant to be, and that's Jamboard. You can access it for free. Okay, you don't need a G Suite account. But your client and you will absolutely need a Gmail account. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. As soon as you move away from something like Zoom, things get a little bit more difficult to access. But in my opinion, the payoff is huge. Okay, so I might not do this with a client who's technophobic completely and who maybe is only doing online therapy because of coronavirus and lockdown, but I would definitely do this, and I do this with my teenage clients who are super happy to navigate Google products and are just much more okay with their computers than I am, right? So Jamboard is really fun for a number of reasons. It's like whiteboard with babies, right? There's like so much else you can do that really your creativity can just take over. Now, I promise I'm not getting paid by Google to say this because I know I get really passionate about this program, but I've even been teaching my teacher friends who are now teaching online. I've been teaching about Jamboard because it's really exciting. So Jamboard is great because primarily the different thing is that you can upload photos and pictures from a variety of places. So if you want to, you can use it as you do annotation, yeah? And you can highlight and mark and do whatever you want. There's a greater range of pens and colors and things like that, paintbrushes. There are sticky notes, like you can see here, let's have fun. There's a sticky note, and it's a sticky note we can move around, everything we can move around. We can make it bigger, we can turn it on its head, whatever you want to do, right? It's super editable. And these pictures you can upload from various places. So you can upload from your computer or your device. What's also cool is that you have Google image search built in. So if I look for an image here, let's find a tiger, and I search, and it'll come up, and I can choose which one I want, select, and it's immediately in my document, which is really cool. Yeah, so ease of access right there. You're not having to go around into different programs. If I don't like it, I delete it, we move on. Okay, so I really like that. I also like the laser function because you can say, hey, look over here, and you can draw attention and then it disappears. Then you can also come up here and change the background. So if you're a bullet journal fundi, you're like this, you can choose anything, colors, all sorts, okay? So whatever you need. And these sticky notes also, unfortunately, Jamboard doesn't have a text box feature as such, so you can't, like in PowerPoint, make a text box that's nice and long, but you do have these little sticky notes, and if you want, you can have it with a clear background so that it doesn't have to have a different color. All right, and then I love Jamboard because multiple pages. Okay, so you're making an album, which is really cool. Now, what is also cool is that Jamboard works like a Google Doc, like Google Sheets. It saves in real time, so you don't have to ever click save. And it's editable by multiple people. Okay, so I wouldn't share my screen. If I was using this with Zoom or with Google Meets, I wouldn't share my screen. I would have to, now this is the kicker, I would have to invite my client to share and to edit the Jamboard with me. So here's when it's not as spontaneous as using the whiteboard. So you maybe want to pick your moments a bit more. But so you would have to have previously set up that, oh, I'm going to share this document with you. But it's easy. As long as they have a Gmail account, they click through, they're in the document. Okay. And you also have security features that mean you can click a button that says no one else can add people, so that you have the power to add people to the document. So if you're in a group, you just want to make sure that people aren't able just to add anybody to show them. You want to keep that secure to kind of hold that confidentiality. So it also means that this is always editable. So you could start doing an exercise in your Jamboard, go and do something else in Zoom or Google Meets, come back and edit it again. You can leave it for a whole week and come back. It doesn't have to, you can save it as a PDF or as a doc or whatever you want, but you don't have to, okay? So it's really editable and always accessible, which I like. So this page I've kind of set up to talk about working with objects. So later in the webinar, I'm going to teach you exactly, a few ways that I work with physical objects. But if you don't have access to physical objects, Jamboard is a great way of working with them. So you could build an object case, like a set, with your client by Google image searching and whatever objects you want. And then they can move them around and you can do whatever you need with your objects, yeah? You can delete them, you can add them, you can move them around, figure it out. So your object play, your projected play is accessible and actually really cool in the digital space as well. And then another really cool project that I do with some of my teens is that I invite them to think of their life as if it was a TV series or a movie, and then we cast it, right? So during the session, we'll sit and we'll Google different actors and actresses that they want to play themselves and the roles in their lives. We put little sticky notes to remember who they are, and we Google where is the setting. We get a picture of that. What is the theme tune? What is the title? What is the genre? Who's the bully or who's making the conflict in the story? And we can even script out scenes and that kind of thing. So it's really this vibrant album that we can keep coming back to each session and growing and changing as we go. You can also use this, like I have previously had a client who could only see me every 2 weeks. Now that's a heck of a long time, right? So with that client, it was really useful for me to have a Jamboard that they can access in between sessions, and they can use it as a journal or just as a space to, like get rid of all the emotion or whatever they're going through. And then we can access it together in therapy and talk through their experience of the 2 weeks. So it just takes away those moments of, I have nothing to say because I'm fine today. I don't remember what happened. Yeah. But really, your creativity is the limits here. If you had people in breakout rooms in Zoom, they could each be working on a different page of a group Jamboard. So you could say, okay, Susan and Karen, you're in breakout room 1 and you are working on page 3, and they can use this as their whiteboard and be editing it. And other people in room 2 can be simultaneously on a different page. That's fine. You can edit different pages at the same time. And then you can come back together and page through together and see what everybody has created, yeah, when they're presenting. And then what I think is really beautiful is that if you have a Jamboard that you've been working on consistently, you can then download it once therapy is done. Or once, if you're doing psychoeducational work, you could do one Jamboard per like area or topic. And you can download it as a PDF, and that's something more tangible for your client to have and to hold on to. And I think that's a really cool thing in the digital space, to have something tangible, to remember a journey and to know like where you've come from. And because it's pretty much unlimited pages, there's no need to go back if you don't want to, right? It can just become part of, look how far I've come, look at the growth. So I really dig Jamboard. I think it's the best, but again, not as accessible easily as, not as easily accessible as the Zoom whiteboard. There are some things to set up. You both need a Gmail account, that kind of thing. Okay, but doable, very doable. Okay, now a super fun thing that I said we're going to work on is how to work with objects. Okay, so we spoke about Jamboard working with objects, but I mean, one thing I really missed when I started online drama therapy work is I missed the idea of having actual physical objects that I could have in the space for my client to use. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to use objects at all. And that scared me because it's a lot of what I like to do and it's how I like to work. So if you like to work that way, there are several options that you have. Okay, the first one is actually working with your client's objects. So you might invite them beforehand or in the session to look around and find 3 significant objects, 4, 5, however many you need. And they can bring them to therapy, and they could say, okay, here we go, here's object 1, and introduce you to them through the Zoom call or whatever call you're doing, okay? I quite like the spontaneity of just telling them on the spot to do that, because I think that it's really interesting to see what people pick when they don't have, like, they can't run around their whole house. but that's up to you, okay? And then to use these, they could set them up, they could set up their laptop looking at the objects, or they could take a picture and upload it to their Jamboard, if you're using Jamboard, or they can send it to you via text or whatever it is, okay? So there's numerous ways. So they could even speak through it with you if they have that capacity. And I think that's really interesting because you're listening to their story of the objects without necessarily seeing the objects in the space. And I think that would be really rich work to hear how they are speaking about what they're doing, and inviting them to change perspective or to explain more and just be curious. Okay, so definitely possible to work with your clients' objects. Okay, I work with a lot of expats, so people, especially people who've newly moved somewhere else. So people who maybe economic immigrants, so they moved for their job or whatever, and they don't necessarily bring their most special objects because the special stuff stays at home where it's safe. So I found it was really difficult for my clients when I asked them to bring something significant to the space, that but all of that's at home. Everything I really want to bring is at home. I don't feel like I have anything that means anything here yet. Okay, so that's when I thought, okay, there must be a way of me using my objects and sharing it with my clients. So as far as I see it, there are tons of options, but the two that I personally use, okay, that I want to talk through is you can have your cell phone, and you can see I have it on a little tripod, or you can also use one of these things. It's like a pocket tripod. They look like a little, just come like this off Amazon, and your phone sits here. And you can like sit it up and whatever you want. You don't want to be using your phone in your hand because you're using it. So you're using your phone to join the Zoom call as another person. Okay. So you don't want to be holding this camera and wobbling and giving your client seasickness. So I want to show you how that would work. Alrighty, so here you can see I just went to Zoom, the Zoom app on my phone, and I typed in the meeting code and the password. If you don't, like, it's not really great to be typing that in during the session because maybe we're trying to work smoothly. So when you schedule the Zoom meeting, you can add it to, say, your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use, and then you can access that calendar on your phone or whatever other device you're using and just click through. So that makes it a lot smoother, okay? But you're going to want to turn the camera around, you know, so that your whatever camera you're using is aimed at your objects. And you can see here, I'm free to move my camera around to look at my objects. Okay, so you're going to want to play around with your space to see how best to set up your objects. Okay, this is just I'm just showing you for the webinar. I'd ideally want more space than this, okay? But you can introduce your objects, you can show them up close. The client can choose them and move them around however they want. Then the other cool thing about having a separate phone or a separate person on the call is that it's super easy for me to ask them to change perspective. So if I want to move it and be like, oh, what do you see from here? What do you see from this perspective? Can we get up close? Yeah, you can move this camera very easily while still staying on screen for your client. Okay, so you could pin this. If you have the view where it's speaker view, where whoever's speaking is big, you want to pin the this image, yeah, of your object, so it's nice and big, and both of you can look at your objects while still being able to see each other and reference each other. One definite tip is when you join with your phone, do not join audio. Mute yourself. Just don't click join audio. It'll come up with the option. Don't click it. Because then you'll get this horrible feedback loop and it'll just be madness. So you want it on silent, muted audio. Don't even join the audio of the call. Okay, so you literally just want it as a camera. When you're done, you just click leave. And there you go. Yeah, and you can click in and out as you need to. Okay, be aware that if you join like this, and maybe you're on the free Zoom account and you're doing a one-on-one, if you join with another device, you or the client, because your client could also do this if they have what's required, then that will count as another person. So then you'll get your 40 minutes and that's when the Zoom call will end, because you need a paid account to have group calls. So this does count as a call. Okay, something good to know. All right, let's put this over here. If you have a laptop like me, or you're joining from a device like a laptop or a tablet that has a front camera and a rear camera on the same thing, I'm going to show you a trick as well. So what you can do is you're going to click share screen, which is on the bottom, the green one, and there's basic and advanced. You want to click advanced, and you've got 3 options. The third one is content from second camera. You want to click share. Okay, and then I might have to click switch camera a few times until it finds it. Now you're seeing what my wall, basically, it's behind my laptop. So I would set up in the space to already have my objects behind my laptop. Okay, so it would need to be something like here, and my objects are there, so I'd want more space. What I don't want is to move my laptop and me to be weird in my little square, okay? But this is another way. I really like it because my laptop has a beautiful screen, beautiful camera at the back, so it really shows things quite nicely and we can move around. It's like more zoomed in than my phone. But either option can work, okay? Great. Alrighty, so that's basically how to share objects. There's tons of other ways, but these are the options that I have. I quickly want to say, if you're working with objects in the space and you're working with other cameras, you're going to want extra light. Now, I always use extra light. I'll show you. You can probably see the reflection in my glasses, but I use one of these. It's like a round light that all the Instagram makeup people use. And that I actually have it backwards facing the wall, because if I have it front ways, it's even worse. It's just 2 big circles in my glasses, and I don't want to take my glasses off, right? So if you face it against a wall, the light bounces and it's a lot warmer. Okay, so you don't have to have the best camera to do online therapy work, but if you can give yourself extra light, your camera will work 100 times better. Okay, so that's just a tip. Okay, now the really fun part. I want to show you Snap Camera. Okay, so another thing I really missed when I thought about online drama therapy work was that I wouldn't be able to work with costumes anymore. And I love dress up. Costuming is integral to the role work that I do. It just makes sense to me. I feel like we can use scarves and everything. I mean, you can see my scarves are behind me, but I thought, how do I get them to you? That was my big problem. So that's when I found Snap Camera. Now, Snap Camera has a lot of caveats to its usage. It is a diva. So things like you would have to open up Snap Camera before you start your Zoom call or your Google Meets call. If you don't do that, it's not going to work for no reason. You also have to have quite a modern computer. You also can't access it on mobile or tablet. Okay, so there's a lot of ifs and ands around Snap Camera, okay? And then it can be a little bit difficult to set up, so you're gonna need time to really set that up with your client and to talk them through it. So I would never, ever use Snap Camera if I was only gonna use it once with a client. There's just no point, because it's gonna take at least a session to get them comfortable with using it, unless they are really great with computers. So if I know that I'm going to use costume, or I want to really do role work or narrow drama, then I would say it was useful. But also, before we even get there, being online is not about being the best at technology. It's not about this bag of tricks that you jump out and you're like, oh, I've got all these things and I have to have these things because I have to impress the people I'm working with. That's bull. Like, the only thing you have to do is what we always do, and that's meet your client where they are. So if you can do that, if you can ask them to bring a scarf or to bring a hat, and you have scarves and hats, who cares if they match or not? If you can do that by getting people to draw on a piece of paper and show you what they're doing and it works, that is fine. You do not have to be high tech, okay? So the purpose of this is not just to make you feel bad, and it's not to make you look great in front of your client because you know all this stuff. The purpose is only to show you what's out there so that you can choose, you can spend time playing, and you can decide what works for you and what works for what client, because not every client is going to do this, have the same needs. Okay, so take a deep breath. If you haven't got Snap Camera working yet, it's fine. It takes time. Play. Yeah, it's really fun. It works with Skype as well. If you want to Skype your friends and have crazy things, I use it with my nephews and nieces all the time. It's really fun. Okay, so play with it. Get curious. Okay, so I'm gonna share my Snap Camera with you so you can see kind of what it looks like in case you haven't managed to download it. Okay, so this is what Snap Camera looks like. It's a lot. Okay, so when you look and when you see everything that's available, I mean, you can scroll for days. There's so much. Okay, so just be prepared also for your client to go, oh, I could be a pickle, and to have them appear as a pickle for at least 10 minutes, because we've all been there, right? Who doesn't want to? So it can be really overwhelming. But there's several things you need to do to set this up. Okay, so the first thing is you want to go into your settings, and you want to help your client and yourself set up hotkeys. The most important hotkey is the first one, turn lens on and off. So a hotkey is just 2 buttons that you press that can work without you having to get back into the program. So mine is Control and S. Yours can be something different. I just think like start, stop. That's what I remember. So if I press Control S, even if I'm just in Zoom, then Snap Camera knows to put the filter on my face or to take it off. Okay, so that's the best one. Then I would also say no take photo. Take start, stop video recording is also good. These are quite important ones, but the most important is start or stop the lens. Okay, so now I'm going to show you an example of the lens. So just taking a moment to see like what this kind of lens would do and what it feels like for you. This is just one example of one of the lenses that came up in Snap Camera, and I thought it was interesting. I'm going to take it off though. And I'm going to take it off because there are several issues with lenses like that. Now I'm going to quickly stop sharing so you only see one of me. So a lens like that is beautiful. It's beautifully made, but it's super immersive. Okay, so if your client is going through some stuff, or if they are particularly underdistanced with regards to what they're dealing with in drama therapy, when you use a mask like that, it's just too much. Okay, and it was from personal experience when I used these masks with my supervisor, and I was just completely like distraught. So a mask like that, it covers your mouth, it covers your eyes. Okay, so you feel speechless and you can't see, and then it also changes your whole screen, right? Your whole screen is dark. So there is no way, even if I look away or I like take the mask off my face, my whole screen still stays dark. Okay, so it's very difficult to step out of character. If I forget my hotkey to turn it off, then it's everything. I mean, look, it's all over, right? So something I teach always before going into Snap Camera is let's practice a gesture that you can perform that takes the mask off your face. So if you forget your hotkey, you can perform a gesture that says, I need a minute. I just need to breathe. I need the mask off my face. What you want to do is stop people going like diving out off screen where you can't see them and you don't know what's going on for them. So even if I'm here, at least I still have contact. Yeah, I'm not just nowhere. So for example, with this, do you see it takes the mask off my face, but it leaves the filter on the whole of the screen. Okay, so there's, all of us know there's a continuum of mask work. So there's on one side of the continuum, there's like masks on a lollipop stick, piece of cardboard that it's easy to take off, might be hand drawn or illustrated, or it's not real. Okay, it's really over distanced, easy, I'm not in it too much. And then all the way on the other side of the continuum, there's masks that fit over your whole face or your body. They cover everything. and they're super immersive. So masks, lenses like I just showed you are on that end of the spectrum. They just cover everything, they're super immersive. So although I would love to use masks like that in the space when I'm in person, when I'm online, I'm not there. I can't guide the person. We don't de-roll here in the same way. So there's just, I don't know if there's an appropriate time for a mask like that long term. So what I did was I forced my lovely husband to start creating masks for drama therapists, things that were nicely distanced, that were fun to play with, but that weren't super emotional and super immersive. So I'm going to give you an example of one of those. And there we go. So you can see I'm a hero, but it's illustrated, right? It's animated. It's not realistic. Okay, it also looks two-dimensional. When I move, it feels like it's just a piece of cardboard in front of my face that maybe I'm holding the mask on. Okay, so it's not super immersive, but it's still fun. It still does the job. Okay, if I do this, it's gone. Everything's gone. There's no other background stuff on my screen. Okay, so we're working on a bunch of masks, and we're working on making masks for archetypes and for the basic roles and things like that. And those are all available for you to use. So I'm going to show you now how to find them. Okay, so if you want to find the Drama Therapy Online masks, you come to Search Lenses, you click DTO, enter. And all of these that have my name or the logo on, these are all the Drama Therapy Online masks. So all of them are really fun, really like not immersive. You don't have to stress about any of these being too much. There's a cool baby one. If you open your mouth, the tummy goes away, this is my favorite. And what you want to do is you're going to guide your client to search for these and to mark them as their favorites. And you're going to do this too. So you're going to click the little star on the left-hand side, and it goes up to your favorites. And then later, you can find all your favorites here. So you can say to your client, look, you can use any of the masks and lenses when you Skype with your friends, but when we're doing drama therapy, these are the ones we use because we can use them together. And you can say, hey, you can access these masks with me. You can tell me what role you want me to be in and what mask I should wear, and we can talk together and play together and be in role together. Okay. Now, if your client sees another lens that's super immersive and they're desperate to use it, they're like, listen, this is what I feel. This is what the character is like for me. I don't think you have to tell them no, but I do think you have to build in a way to get them to be in that mask for as little time as possible. Okay, so one of the beautiful things about online therapy is that you can see yourself. Okay, so you're always seeing yourself and the client seeing themselves and you. So if you wanted to turn that off, that's an option. You hover your mouse over the top right of your picture or whoever's picture you want to do away with, and you click and you'll find hide self view, and then it takes away your video so you don't have to watch yourself if that's something that you or your client doesn't want to do. But I think there's something really uniquely beautiful about watching yourself in role, especially when you've got masks or you are taking on a character and speaking, like if you invite your client to speak as their mom to themselves, they can actually be doing that and watching themselves as mom, yeah, speaking to themselves. So it's like a little bit meta, but I think it's quite beautiful and it's something we don't get to experience very often. Okay, but it also can be super confronting to see yourself in these really hectic masks. Okay, it's a lot. So what I would suggest is you can let them be in the mask, and then maybe you want to take a photo. So you like guide them to take a photo in their snap camera, which is an option on the bottom left hand side of their screen. And then they can upload that photo to Jamboard, or they can send it to you, or however they can show it to you. They can also take a video, okay? So they could literally video themselves speaking as that character, and then you could share that with each other and work with that, yeah? So it doesn't become, you just want them to be able to step out of the role and then reflect back, okay? So you could have a bunch of photos from your Snap camera in your Jamboard, and it becomes like all of your roles that you're dealing with as you go through therapy. And you can name them and give them a catchphrase or whatever it is, and that's saved in your Jamboard album, which I think would be really powerful. And it means that they can choose whatever they want, but they don't have to be in it for too long. Okay, you're going to provide that distance for them. So that Snap camera, I really love it. It doesn't work for everybody. It isn't appropriate for everybody, but something really cool. And they're updating it all the time with new masks. And also just send me an email if there's a mask that you want to see and that you need in a little bit more distanced, like therapy appropriate way. Okay. Okay, so now we're coming to the end of the webinar. I hope you've had fun and learned a lot. I hope that you're not feeling super overwhelmed, but you're rather feeling creative and curious about what's out there. I want to speak a little bit about containment and grounding in the online space, because I know that I've felt it personally, and you probably have too, that after a day of being online and Zoom calls, even if they're just meeting friends, hanging out with friends online, you can feel exhausted and you can feel really spacey. Like you forget that you have feet and you forget that you have a body. You're just this like floating head, which is exactly what you see in this little patch of video all day. So really, drama therapists, I think, have a unique opportunity, because you could be the only person in your client's life that says to them, hey, do you remember where your feet are? Can you feel the chair under your body? Do you want to get up and stretch? Just referencing the body is such a beautiful thing, and it's part of our embodied way of working. Please don't forget that just because you're online. Don't think that you can't ask your client to get up and move and stretch with you. Just remind them that they need to wear pants, right? Because we need a reminder. It's been a while since we've been out the house. So invite movement. Tell them, like, every check-in and every check-out should be referencing the body, doing body scans or just a guided meditation or something that just brings you back into this physical form and lets you like move a little bit and not be so stuck in a computer. Okay, that's your responsibility as an online drama therapist. We're not talk therapists. Yeah, so yes, online work has a lot more talk, but we need to facilitate the embodiment in any way we can. Okay, so you can also share music. In Zoom, you're going to want to press share screen, advanced, and then you're going to click share music. And as long as that music is on your device that you're using, you can share it. I don't want you to play music through your phone or through a hi-fi or whatever you have, an iPod, because then it has to go through your phone's speaker, into your computer speaker, through the interwebs, out their speaker into their ears. And it's just like going through so much that of course there's going to be a delay and it's going to be difficult. Okay, so please rather use Zoom's share music function, because it takes out a bunch of those steps in between, and there'll be a lot more, a lot better quality when it comes out. Okay, you could use virtual backgrounds. Yeah, on Zoom, you're going to want to look at the bottom to the left, and next to the start or stop video button, you can have virtual backgrounds, and you can set up a picture that will come behind you in Zoom. Your client could set up one, you could share one. Yes, so you could actually create a shared digital space. I had someone on the webinar the other day who said, well, they need to move around their house to get proper Wi-Fi, but they would rather their client thinks they're in, like, have the normality of being in their office, but there's no Wi-Fi in the office. So we spoke about taking a picture of the wall behind her, what they would normally see, and using that as a virtual background. So they can still have a conversation with the client, but listen, I'm moving around a bit, but at least there's a feeling of, this is where I am, I know where I am, you know, I'm safe here. So backgrounds are great in Zoom. Zoom is not as good as Snap Camera, okay? So like, if you can see behind me, I have this beautiful orange wall hanging. That would not be appropriate for a Zoom background, because Zoom wants us to have green screen-like capabilities. So if I have a wall that's one color and all the lighting is the same throughout the picture, so you don't want like shadows and then light in the same picture, that confuses it, then you can use your Zoom background. But it's also really fun. I mean, we know it's not great technology, and it's still just fun to play with, yeah. And then I also want to say, we have the language of how our clients use the space, right? That's something we look at. Whether you're a drama therapist or you're a dance and movement therapist, we look at how a person uses the space. This is our space. This little square here can tell us so much. Yeah, there's a client who sits here every day, and then one day they're up here. Yeah, that's a huge change. Am I, as the therapist, centered in my screen? Yeah, or am I stressed and hunched? Like, how am I responding to the client? Do I have a client who, even though I encourage them to stay in where I can see them, do I have someone who really battles at certain times to stay on camera or to be in camera? And what does that mean? What are we dealing with when they're struggling to be seen? And when you're telling people or asking people to enroll, it's like a role can be up here, a character can be here, a character can be removed, a character could be standing, yeah, or could be moving in the space a lot, or like really like never moving and solid in the space. These are all characterizations that you can demonstrate and encourage, but just because you don't necessarily have the whole room to move in doesn't mean that this space means nothing, right? It's actually quite a nice little containing bubble if you use it properly. All right, so we are coming to the end. Yeah, practice eye contact is another tip. So eye contact when you are with the group is actually you looking straight into where your camera is. So like for me, it's here. Whereas I tend to look around my screen to see where the picture of the person is, where their video is. That's fine. You can say that you battle to do that or that you're struggling. There might be times where you specifically choose to look straight into a camera and then just keep your peripheral vision on the person, because eye contact can be very grounding and necessary for connection. So practice doing that. Get a friend to Zoom call you and see what they see. Also practice your breath work. If you're using, like when I am seeing a client, I have my earphones on and I have a microphone. If I'm wanting to get people to breathe out, one, I'm going to need to be a bit louder than I would in the space because I want that to be heard. But two, be careful you don't breathe right into the microphone and go, make that crazy sound, because nothing takes you out of like a relaxed state faster than a crazy sound like that. So practice breathing. Get a friend on Zoom, breathe at them and see if they're like scared or not. If your video goes off for any reason, or if it's a bit blocky, remember to use a verbal cue so people know you're there. Remember, silence isn't super comfortable online because we think it's a problem with our technology, okay, or that someone's not listening. So just remember to give a few extra verbal cues so that the person knows you're still there. And that counts even when your video is on, to be honest. You might want to be in full screen mode for Zoom because it's really nice. There's no distractions. But remember that you don't see your battery dying on your laptop and you can't see the time. So just keep an eye out. Maybe have time, like a clock somewhere. Yeah, just remember, plug in your laptop. All right, and then also mistakes happen. Yeah, no one is expecting you, especially now during coronavirus. But always, no one expects you to be perfect at online therapy, okay? None of us are. We're all learning, and technology changes every day, so we'll never stop learning, and that's the joy of it. So please don't feel like you have to be perfect. Please do practice and play hopefully before you meet your clients, but you do not have to be perfect. And if you press the wrong button or you lose the button that you need to press, be open about it and just use it as a point of like building relationship and trust and say, you know what? I thought this was here, but this is what I'm trying to do. Maybe your client will know exactly what you're trying to do and they can guide you. And especially for someone who's socially anxious or for a younger, like a teen, it can be really awesome to be able to step into that role of power, of helping the helper, helping the therapist to do what they need to do. And it just helps subvert that power relationship a little bit. So I'm not saying make mistakes on purpose, but I am saying don't beat yourself up about them. And absolutely, the person that's on the other side of your screen is just as human as you. And yeah, they also lose things. And they're probably in awe of you being able to hold their stories while holding the technology, because that's pretty awesome. Okay, so don't stress. No therapy is going to be over just because you missed a share screen button once in a while. Okay. Remember that, remind yourself of that often. Okay, so if you have questions, please email me, get in touch. I would love to help you out. I would love to hear your ideas. What are some of the things that you want to see in the online drama therapy world that you don't know how to do? Because if I hear what you need, I can Google and find the apps and find the ways to do it and share it with you. Okay, so I know how I like to work, but that's, I mean, just me. This is a brand new field. It's really exciting. So tell me what you need and we can figure it out. There's never a no, you can't do that. It's only a this is how we need to adapt the technique to work online. Okay. Also, there's email and text-based drama therapy, but that is the next webinar. So get in touch. I hope you don't feel overwhelmed, but if you do, tell me as well, because we're all in this together and you are not alone and there is no question too simple. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.